So let's talk headlines. So let's say you have some great content. You're creating content, you're putting content out there. Wouldn't it be a shame if nobody saw it? Your ideal client never got to read it because the headline or the initial hook didn't grab their attention enough, right? This thing happens all the time. There's a lot of content out there, and your audience or the people that you're wanting to attract with this content, they only have so much time and they only have so much attention to give, and your ideal clients can't possibly consume everything that ends up in front of them. So they will, and they have to make a quick snap judgment about your content. Really, a lot of the time it's based on nothing but the headline, right? So it's a reality. It's not convenient. It's not something that's great because you may have bad headlines and fantastic content. But this is the one thing that you actually have to plan for and you actually have to be aware of as you're going through the creation process. And that means you have to start creating headlines and start treating headlines as the most important element of your content, or one of the most important elements, because they are honestly, they're the biggest and the greatest marketing piece that you have in order to get that attention and keep that attention, right? So on average, 5 times as many people read the headline as read the body of the copy. So when you've written your headline, you've spent 80% of, well, let's say this, you've spent 80 cents out of your dollar just with the headline alone, right? So it wasn't common for a lot of these, it wasn't uncommon for a lot of these, really serious writers, really serious content creators to write a headline 100 times. Isn't that crazy? Until it was just right, right? But the key here is you're not going to write your headlines 100 times. You're not going to write your headlines 1,000 times. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm actually going to give you some proven copywriting formulas that you can turn into attention grabbing headlines, sub headlines, and emails, whatever you're going to use. So you'll be able to create high converting headlines with a fraction of the time and a fraction of the effort, because all you need to do is take these and use them. So before I hand you off all of these formulas so that you can run with them, let's first talk about some guiding principles of headline copywriting. So number one, a headline has one job, and it's to get the reader to read the copy, or to read the rest of the copy, or the body of the copy. Number two, a headline can accomplish this one task in 4 different ways. Okay. Number one, promising value, right? Number two, sparking curiosity. Number three, subverting expectations. Right? So it could be, you're not actually lazy as a procrastinator. Here's what you actually need to know about procrastination, something like that. Number 4, calling out the reader, right? So what is something that they may think, or something that they're doing that you can essentially call them out and say, stop doing this, or start doing this, or something like that. Some headlines will lead really heavily in one particular direction or the other, while some of them will be kind of a hybrid of 2 of those principles at once. If you're paying attention, then you've noticed that the examples 2 and 3 were a combination of curiosity and expectation subversion and I use that a lot in my copywriting. So now that you understand how, or the principles of the headlines and what you need to be focusing on, let's actually talk about some headline formulas and how you can create better headlines. So number 1, let's talk about value focused headline formulas. So this is really the most straightforward kind of formula that there is out there. All you really need to make it work is to promise a specific tangible outcome, and you can add a framework to it, or a time frame to it, or whatever you want to do. So as an example of this would be, as a formula would be, learn how to achieve result. Okay, so learn how to sell your home in 5 days or less, as an example, or learn how to be the winning offer in a low inventory market, something like that. So curiosity driven headline formulas are going to be a little different. These headlines rely on information gaps. So what they're doing is they're enticing your audience to read even further. So a good 2-step template for these is to tease them with an outcome, and then promise them a solution in the copy. So without really revealing what it is. So an example would be, want to achieve result, try or do this. So want to sell your house for $100,000 over asking, do this. Or, you need this to get this. So you need I don't know. What's an example of this? You need these 5 steps in order to sell your house for $100,000 over asking. These are just like off the top of my head, really quick ones, right? So then the third type of formula is going to be expectation defying headline formulas. So you've probably seen a classic expectation defying headline like I laughed when I sat down at the piano, but when I started to they laughed when I sat down at the piano, but when I started to play, something like that, right? So what we are doing is you need to create a one sentence plot twist. So you set up an expectation with the first part of the headline, and then you pull the rug out from under your readers with the second part. So, and as an example for this is, the number of tips from, and then a surprising source. So, 5 job interview tips from a hostage negotiator. That's just an example, right? Or how to achieve the result, even if, and you use the objection that you commonly get. So something like that could be how to create content that sells, even if you got an F in English, right? So this is just an example of how to use the 2 parts of it to really like give yourself a plot twist. So how to sell your house for $100,000 over asking, even without a renovation, something like that, right? So then the last one is call out headline formulas. So you want to use these with caution. These headlines work by invoking a pain point in your audience in the most direct way possible. So when you hit the nail on the head exactly, they work really well, but they can fall flat if you miss the mark. So you want to be careful here, and this is again why we always talk about how important it is to create marketing messaging and to do your avatar interviews, because if you don't have the pain point bang on, these aren't going to work. So I recommend that you use headlines when you are really clear about what and who you're calling out. So an example of this you will never achieve what is a really good one, right? So basically what you're doing is you're full out calling out. You're never going to hit 7 figures unless you blah, blah, blah. Or stop posting just listed, just sold, and start creating real content. That's a headline that I would use. Or, or you can use a provocative question. So are you brave enough to be bad? Or are you brave enough to list your house in the winter? Or, something like that. There's always ways that you can do this, but it has to be geared specifically towards a pain point. And you always want to be using these call out headlines with as much empathy and as much care as possible. So you don't want to be a bit of an ass about it, right? But there is a time and a place for you to be a little bit brutal. We call it lovingly savage, right? Where you can be a little bit savage and you can call something out in a loving and honest way in order to really teach something and gain that attention. And honestly, at the end of the day, all of these different ones, and I hope you guys took notes. You can watch this a million times over if you want. These formulas are going to work every single time when we're talking about headlines. Now, if you have questions as I've gone through this, let me know in the comments. If this was helpful, let me know in the comments. Just interact with me a little bit here so that I can keep creating content for you. And the more you guys interact, the more people actually get to see this. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you took some notes. And if you have any questions at all, I'm just a comment away.